I don't know if I'm going to anger any source material fans here, but Denji's kind of dumb. Denji, I don't know. I'm at the point now watching Chainsaw Man. It's only 3 episodes in, let's be honest, but I'm at the point already where I'm kind of already getting annoyed by Denji's obsession with boobs. It's just like that's all he seems to care about, and I'm not getting anything out of him besides that. Now, granted, again, I kind of feel into the whole aspect that they're trying to present with Denji and the idea that he's just been so isolated and not really had contact with people. Everybody's seen him as disgusting and stinky. He's not really had a chance to really socialize and connect with people or girls or whatever, but I hope this is not I hope this is not all of his character. Like I'm getting kind of tired of how just simple he is. Like it was kind of funny though. It gives a little bit credit to Power, like in the idea that she sees this and goes immediately, "Oh, I can use this. He wants to touch my chest. All right, help me with this cat." So at the same time, Power equally gets her own dues. Like you have this aspect that Power looks down upon Denji and says, you know, how can you trust people? That you're kind of dumb for trusting me. And then at the same time, it's like, yeah, but you're also dumb for trusting the bat. Like she gets the same effect happen to her that she did to Denji. But at the same time, it was really cool seeing at least between Power and Denji, there's a connection. Like Power witnesses what it feels like to lose something that you would treasure. Denji says that he lost Pochita. He had Pochita at some point, lost Pochita, and she's like, "Oh, well that's kind of dumb. You know, he's not really alive. That's something you're saying just to make yourself feel better that he's inside of you, whatever." But at the same time, now she feels the same feeling with this cat being consumed by the bat, which I'm gonna assume that both of them are fine. At least Power, and I assume that the cat with her because I don't see Power leaving at this point. Like, it's not as if Power's gone. But no, my issues with Denji and his simplicity aside, it was a good episode. I really loved the chemistry at the very beginning of it, having Power and Denji sitting there bickering back and forth, and at the same time, Makima in the middle going, yeah, I don't really care whose fault it is. I just hope that you guys can work together. You guys can do that, right? And additionally, her telling Power to be quiet, and she immediately stops. Like, again, we're going back to this whole mindset that I'm really curious as to what Makima's power is at this point, because for somebody that, you know, Makima even admits to, somebody who was a blood devil, was super powerful, and then at some point became one of these fiends, and now she's been controlling them. And later on, Power mentioned the idea that, yeah, she found this cat, she was trying to get the cat back, but then she got into the clutches of Makima, and then she's been trying to get out ever since then. And the only way that she's ever been able to get out is by tricking Denji into getting a release form so that she can leave until 5 o'clock. Like, he has to sign a waiver to have her be able to leave the facility on something besides a job. But that was the first time she's been able to get out since being in the clutches of Makima. So it makes me wonder, like, what does Makima have? Like, what makes Makima so special? Why is she so threatening? Again, my only thought process is on the idea of what she did to Denji is probably the same thing she did to Power, and probably the same thing she did to Hayakawa, that she has the ability to manipulate people. Like, she knows how to control them, feed into their mind, and control them mentally. And it's not really present and easy to understand with Denji, because, again, Denji's so stupidly simple-minded. He's so simple because he's had nothing, and so it's really easy to feed into him. It's really easy to gain the control of somebody who has nothing just by giving him something. Give him something, and then they'll keep following you. Give them something, they'll keep following you. They're the dog that just wants the treat. As long as you can give me a treat, I'm good, I'm happy, my tail's wagging. I'm curious what that means for Power. And I'll hopefully it doesn't take too long before we get into that, but just based on flipping a little bit into the manga past this chapter, or what's covered so far, which looks like nothing was skipped in this episode, which is good. It does look like we're going to get a little more about Power's history, hopefully up to the point that she met Makima. But yeah, we have a scene with Denji and Power, and that's when she mentioned the idea that she likes cat. That's the only thing that she's comfortable with. At the same time, this creature, this devil, stole Meowie, who she's really, really cherishes. And so again, she plays into Denji's desire for touching chests to go, well, you can touch mine as long as you help me get Maui back. It was interesting that she also mentioned the idea that she instinctively, she hates humans, but she also hates devils. But she does admit that it's an instinct, basically. I hate humans because it's in my demonic blood. But yeah, she mentioned the idea of touching her boobs, and immediately Denji gets like super mad. I hate cats. She says, well, you can touch my chest if we get Meowie. We have to get this devil. We seriously have to get this devil. And she's like, oh, okay, sure. Again, she's playing into it. It's so funny that, like, at this part right here, it almost makes it out as if Power's just dumb. Like she's just excited because he's excited. Oh wait, he's gonna help me. All right, cool. But no, it's all according to her Keikaku. But after getting the release, the train scene was pretty cool because it kind of gets into, again, Denji reflecting on missing something. As she's lost this cat and she's trying to get it back, Denji's kind of like, I don't really care about cats, but if it was a dog, I'd be pretty upset. I mean, he had Pochita, and this is where he mentions the idea that Pochita lives inside of him, which is exactly what, Makima told him and everything. But again, Power believes it's all sentimental. It's not in there. You're just saying that to make yourself feel good. That's what humans do. This is where we get a brief scene of Makima talking to some sort of council, which I'm guessing is part of the public safety group. And they're mentioning like a little bit of insight into the world itself. It seems as if there's a Soviet war hawks that are crowing more loudly, whatever that means. Seemingly the Soviet Union or something like that is dealing with a situation. I don't know if it's just talking about... It seemed like it was mainly focused around war between different nations, which they were specifically saying that there's word that they're using devils in war now. So we do have a standard setting like we do, where there's a bunch of nations, and yes, they have conflict between the nations. But now, obviously, in this world, we're including the presence of devils and fiends. But now they're specifically saying that there are some nations that are using those devils in the wars, along with the fact that there is wars. So it makes me kind of wonder if they're already kind of telegraphing at this point in the story that later on we're probably going to get to a point where different nations are going to send devils to different nations, and possibly Denji and their team's going to have to fight back. It does seem like this particular council is specifically noting how's your dogs doing, essentially. Like, how is these dogs doing that you have control of? Are they doing good? And yeah, she's mentioned the idea that, yeah, one's got a lot of promise. Didn't really specify which one she was talking about. I'm assuming she's talking about Power, because I think the order of joining was Hayakawa, obviously, and then Power was added to his team, and then Denji was added. So I'm assuming she's talking about Power, because later on she says the one that was interesting is Denji, obviously. Which they respond, don't get attached. You're supposed to be using you put them to work, basically. And again, I'm wondering if they're talking about this idea they're possibly having her control these fiends and half demons and half devils for the sake that later on they could be used for war. Typically, they're killing these devils, but there's a possibility they're trying to experiment with Makima to raise these half devils and fiends to fight against, future threats. The following scene was kind of interesting in Hayakawa and Makima talking, and he specifically points out, why'd you call him interesting? He's more disgusting than anything. I don't know. I didn't see Hayakawa in the room, so I'm wondering if he was able to hear inside the room, or he could have been in the room and I just missed it. But either way, I like how Makima puts it in the idea that, obviously it doesn't seem like it's full. It hasn't really stated it so far. But the assumption already in these first 3 episodes that it seems like every devil has some sort of thing that it's connected to, an object. Obviously, tomato devil, chainsaw devil, blood devil. Everything is an object. She says every time a devil is born, there's a name given to it. And so she specifically points out, if there was a coffee devil, nobody would be afraid. I'd be afraid because that coffee could be really hot and it would just burn you to death, or it can drown you. But she believes coffee wouldn't be very scary as a devil. But she points out the idea that car, if it was a car devil, it'd be scary because you can imagine a car could crush you and kill you. And that's why she says a chainsaw devil is interesting to her, because obviously chainsaws are pretty scary. So having somebody that is a chainsaw devil makes sense that it's interesting. I don't know if there was more context to this kind of phrasing that she said. I was tempted to go check out the manga to see if there was more context that was kind of lost in the translation to the anime format, but I guess I understand her, especially in Japan. For some reason, there's a fascination with chainsaw. Japan has a lot of weird fascination with things that we just find normal over here. Like, I have like 3 chainsaws. It's not that interesting to me, but I don't know, for Japan, where there's not many trees to cut down for most civilization that's there, it's probably super interesting. I always find, like, when I'm playing video games and stuff, and they have these weird transformations and stuff that always, like, point out the most common thing over here. It's always, like, super rare over there. But yeah, Hayakawa mentions once again that he's not really liking Denji because there's a chance that he's already stated that he is willing to befriend devils, and so he doesn't like him. Which, yes, leads to the last scene where Power knocks out Denji, drags him into this building where she basically gives him off to this bat devil. The bat devil goes, oh, it took you a while, squeezes Denji, gets some blood, says it's disgusting, but still grows to full size before he's deciding to go out and kill something. Which, again, this is a scene where Power kind of mentions to Denji, you're kind of foolish for believing me, but then at the same time, the bat eats the cat, and she's like, oh, okay, now I understand what you mean, Denji. Now I understand the feeling that you just told me, which I think is going to be I think that was a good connecting point. Like, I think that's going to be the bond between Power and Denji. she now understands how Denji feels. And I think that's going to be something they'll bond over later on. Hopefully that means that she's not going to criticize him as much as she did, knowing that he has Pochita in him, and she still believes that he's dead. Not sure why she just stood there while he consumed her, but I guess that's one of those aspects of she lost pretty much the one thing that she was connected to, and so she just kind of accepted taking, being consumed. Or she was planning on busting out of him eventually. But yeah, cool fight scene though. Denji grabbing onto him, tearing him up out of the sky, slamming into buildings. I just love fights that just kind of include just destruction of skyscrapers and stuff. Just seeing these massive buildings being blown up. And unfortunately, most anime doesn't really do that because it's either in fantasy or the animation's just not quite there. But no, it was really cool. Really cool fight. Still shrug at CGI Denji, but at least they animated the Devil Bat. One thing that was kind of established in the scene is, although it seemed like Denji was trying to get people to leave, like he was telling people get out of here, it doesn't seem like that is his focus. Because the moment this guy tries to take advantage of that, the bat takes advantage of that and chucks this car with somebody in it, Denji immediately says, I don't care, and chucks the car with the guy in it. Now granted, the guy, for the sake of Denji's character, miraculously jumps out of the vehicle before it explodes. It kind of implies here that he's willing to let somebody die. And I don't know if it's him. Again, Denji's so simple, I try to overthink him. Maybe it's just the heat of the moment, but at least he kind of learned something here in the idea that he can retract his blades. But yeah, that leads to him messing up this bat, and that's it. I was a little bit upset that this kind of stopped right here because I would assume that we'd have a little bit of clarity as to what happened to Power. He does really badly wants to grow her inside of his belly, but I was really hoping that we'd get some sort of clarification about what happens to Power after this. I did flip like a couple pages after, so I know what kind of happens, but we'll see. We'll see next week. But yeah, solid episode. Like I said, frustrated with Denji, like the chemistry, like the connections that's happened between Power and Denji, and looking forward to more of this. But that's my thoughts on episode 3 of Chainsaw Man. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. As always, if you did, make sure to hit that like button down below, comment, let me know what's all the episodes. Subscribe to the channel if you're new to the channel. I can do news, reviews, first impressions, top list. If it's anime, it's pretty much here. Additionally, if you want to support the channel more, we have a Patreon link, a tips link, and a super thanks button down below. I greatly appreciate everybody it does, and y'all take care.